Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Prediction Show. We are at Wildcard Weekend, or as the NFL calls it, the Super Wildcard Weekend. And I want to remind you guys, we are brought to you by Betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for finding the online sportsbook or casino that's right for you. Make sure you check them out now at Betting.net. I am your host for the NFL Prediction Show, Mike Goodpasser. Right now, I'd like to welcome in NFL beat reporter Dan Kornhauser. How you doing, Dan?
I'm good, Mike. Happy wild card weekend. And I'm feeling really good today because the regular season is over, which is bittersweet. My team didn't make the playoffs, but it's fine because I am the Grueling Truth's NFL Prediction Show 2022-2023 regular season pick'em champion. Our final records at the end of the regular season, Mike,
It doesn't matter.
I sit at 142 and 128. You sit at 132 and 138.
Well, that's just because I desperately tried to win in the last 2 weeks.
I went 9-7 last week. You went 7-9. And now here we are with a comfy lead. And I'm ready to go. Oh, and Steve Risley,
are you there?
I'm here. You guys hear me?
All right. And we've got straight from Los Angeles, straight out of Cali, 1981 national champion for the Indiana Hoosiers. And he finished in last place in the Pick'em show this year. Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Hello?
Hello. Could you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Woo!
Welcome
back, Steve.
All right, guys. We are to the NFL playoffs. We're the wild
Wait,
card.
where did I finish, Dan? How many points did I get?
You went 7-9 this past week, which isn't terrible, but your total is still TBD because there was a couple of weeks ago that I didn't get all your picks.
We've got them all written down now, so I'll have to send those to you. What number is he at right now?
His total right now? Oh, I have no idea. Oh. I don't want to calculate it and be incomplete.
You're like an NFL official. You have no clue what's going on. You're a moron. All right, so we're going to go ahead. We're going to head into the playoffs. We're going to break down each game. We're going to give you our winner against the point spread, and then maybe I'll talk about maybe who the coach of the year, MVP, stuff like that should be. Maybe look at some coaching stuff coming up. Hopefully Jeff Saturday can stay with the Colts. I've got my fingers crossed. But we're going to start off Super Wildcard Weekend, the Seattle Seahawks at the San Francisco 49ers. I don't think it's a huge surprise to anybody that the 49ers are here, but it's probably a huge surprise that Seattle is here. Brock Purdy is 5-0 as a starter. The 49ers are favored by 10, Dan.
I'm going to take San Francisco. Very simple. This is what we've been waiting for all year. All the nonsense, all the cupcake weekends, all the BS matchups that we had to deal with during the season, they're done. Now this is the
aren't these cupcake bullshit matchups though? I mean, the Seattle Seahawks should not be in the playoffs. The Miami Dolphins should not be in the playoffs. There's too many teams. The adding a team just makes us sit and watch two ass whippings, which is what happened last year too when the 7th seed played a 2 seed.
Well, to quote Macho Man Randy Savage, the cream rises to the top.
But here it didn't because you still have, Seattle and Miami in the playoffs.
No, the cream hits a tree driving his Jeep down the road and dies of a heart attack from all the steroids he took.
Oh,
Macho Man Savage. All right. Yeah. You had me confused there, Steve, and then it made sense. All right. So, Dan, like San Francisco?
San Francisco all the way. I'm surprised this line isn't higher.
Make sure you write all these picks down. I am one that I think the reason this line is not higher is, number one, you've got two divisional teams playing each other. Those games are usually not blowouts in the regular season, no matter who plays. Brock Purdy is 5-0 as a starter. The key to all of that is their +9 turnover differential in those 5 games. Geno Smith's averaged 216 yards in the 2 regular season losses in the 49ers. You do have DK Metcalf. You've got some weapons for Seattle. But, Purdy's going to continue to tear this up with George Kittle, who has 7 TD receptions in the last 4 weeks. I think the red zone scoring is the difference. I like San Francisco here, given the 10 points also, Steve.
Yeah. Danny, any significant injuries on either team?
This actually, they haven't released an injury report for either of these two teams yet. But I mean, other than the ones that we already know about, I don't think there's anything new.
Could we actually see a weekend? No, we probably can't because it's well, I don't know, a weekend where both Bosa's actually play in the same weekend.
Well, actually, now that I'm looking at the actual individual teams, Nick is not on the injury report, so I figure he's playing. And I'll get back to the Chargers later, but we might see both playing on the same weekend.
I'd like to see the record of how many of both of them being in the NFL, how many weekends both those idiots have played a game
at the same time. Yeah.
I guarantee
we'll put Dan on that.
It's more not than they have. I guarantee you that.
Probably.
Two of the richest kids in the NFL for having played the least amount of football. They're kind of like LeBron James of the NBA. Well,
LeBron James went like 15 years before he started missing games, though, Dan.
Oh, God, he misses games out here now for.
He's freaking 40 years old. I mean, why would you play him every game?
Because he's a goat.
$40 million
he's not a goat. Shut the hell up with that.
Man's a goat.
He's not a goat.
Man's going to be a Rushmore.
I can name you 10 guys better than him.
Than LeBron?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to join you guys, and I'm going to take the 49ers. I think the 49ers are a team that's very capable of getting to the Super Bowl.
Hell yeah.
All right. Yeah. Next up, the Los Angeles Chargers are a 1.5-point favorite at Jacksonville, Steve. And Jacksonville beat LA in LA 38-10, week 3, I believe it was. The Chargers got embarrassed by the Denver Broncos, which we'll talk about Denver and their situation in a little bit. But the Jaguars at home came out of nowhere to win the AFC South at 9-8. They've been hot lately. Trevor Lawrence looks like he may be rounding in to what everybody thought he would be. Steve, do you like Jacksonville here as a small underdog, or are you going with the Chargers?
Well, Mike, I think you said a key word there in your eloquent analogy of the scenarios here. And that word you used is win. I think the Jaguars won the division. I don't think they backed into it. I think they went out and sure Tennessee lost 6 of their last 7 games. I think
they lost their last 7.
Something like that. Yeah, they're so bad.
But, they had quarterback issues going into it,
but they're backed into the division, Steve, because nobody was any good.
Well, but still, they went out and played good football. They played good football. They didn't just sit there and they weren't cream of the crap. They were a legitimate, bona fide playoff football team the last half of the season.
I don't think any time a teteam's 9-8 you got to win at least 10 games.
They had to overcome a lot. I mean, they overcame a shitty start. Irregardless of that, I think the Jaguars are going to make a little noise. I don't think that they're definitely not in the caliber of a Cincinnati or a Kansas City or a Buffalo, but I think they're just a notch below them, and they're a team now that nobody really wants to go screw around with and get into a pissing match with them in the game. They're playing at Jacksonville. That's a coast to coast trip for Chargers. Chargers have just been inconsistent all year.
They're poorly coached by Brandon Staley is the issue.
Yeah, but they when they're good, they're great. But they aren't great half the time they play. They're just a mediocre football team and have a real tendency, I think, to play to the level of their opponents in many games. And I just think Jacksonville, I think that Trevor Lawrence, as you said, is coming into his own. He's learning to lead this football team. The team's rallying around him. Seems they have an owner who's willing to just put his money where his mouth is, and that always gets players rah-rah. So I definitely am going to give up the 1.5. I'm getting 1.5.
Yeah, you're getting 1.5
points and take Jacksonville in this game.
Yeah, so my question is Joey Bosa going to play? Is Mike Williams going to play, Dan?
Yes. So on those fronts, Mike Williams was a non-participant for the second straight day in practice today. So his status Sunday is questionable at this point with what's listed as a back injury. But on the flip side, Joey Bosa was a full participant coming off of what's listed as a groin injury. So I think we're more likely to see Bosa than we are Williams, but that might change if Williams gets at least one practice in before this weekend, even if it's a limited practice. As long as he can get on the field, we'll probably see him this weekend. But as of now, he's questionable. Joey Bosa's probably playing.
Yeah,
And
I think this game. I
Jackson-
think I think this game is a total toss-up. This is the only wild card matchup where you've got two quarterbacks that have thrown for over 4,000 yards. Should be a high-scoring game, but my key here is this: Brandon Staley, I think, should be fired. I don't care how far the Chargers go; he needs to be fired immediately. I think Doug Peterson is one of my probably. If I had to list the top 5 guys for Coach of the Year, Doug Peterson would be in there. I think the difference here is coaching. I think Doug Peterson is the better coach. You got a home field advantage in Jacksonville. I'm going to go with the Jaguars in a close one, Dan. Dan?
It's a little my connection's a little fluky on my end here. I don't know why my computer's going crazy. But I'm going to take the
Bill.
Yeah. I'm gonna take the Chargers here. They are still, as they are most weeks, more talented roster, at least on paper. With Bosa coming back, I think that's a huge boost. And I love Jacksonville, where they're coached, the quarterback. I'm a huge fan of all that. And had a great year at running back. They're a talented squad, but they're not quite there yet. They remind me more where Philly was last year. I do think Jack can get some top flight talent. They'll have some salary cap. They'll have a picks and coming. I think they're a year back to where they should be next year. I think next year they'll be in a better spot. But I'm going to take the Chargers.
All right, next up we got the Miami Dolphins at the Buffalo Bills. That line is now at 13 points as it looks like Tua Tagovailoa will not play. And it looks like Teddy Bridgewater may also be out. The last thing I heard was they were preparing with Skylar Thompson, who has a 57% completion percentage, which would be great if this was 1975 and he was throwing deep balls. They're on the road. Injury-wise, is Raheem Mostert healthy?
Hold on. Well, my computer's
the
being
only
a
chance
jerk.
I see here, the game they played 3 weeks ago, the Dolphins did run the ball well on them. I think the Bills have issues right now, especially with injuries on the defensive side of the ball. But I think this is a blowout win for Miami, Dan.
You mean a blowout win for Buffalo?
Yeah, Buffalo. I wish Miami would win because all of America should be cheering for Miami. But go ahead.
What line are we going with? Minus 13?
Minus 13 is the most recent line I saw because that's when it was announced that Tua was out and they were preparing Skylar Thompson to be the starting quarterback.
I mean, I don't know how anyone could take Miami. Even with Tua, this game would have probably gotten ugly. I'm going to take this is a legit Super Bowl contender. And, well, now that my computer's not being dumb anymore, apparently McDaniel told besides Tua not being, Terran Armstead, their left tackle, Bradley Chubb. I mean, they've got a whole list. Raheem Mostert, a bunch of guys didn't practice today. And apparently all these guys are questionable if they're going to practice for the rest of the week. So they might be really shorthanded. We'll see who ends up playing, but it doesn't matter if everybody else was healthy. I don't think this is going to be much of a contest. I'm going to take Buffalo.
If everybody was healthy, it would obviously be a close game because the two teams split their first 2 games, and Buffalo's not as good right now. Josh Allen hasn't played as well as of late. I mean, come on. Josh Allen gets ranked as the second best quarterback in the NFL by most people, and I think he's got more turnovers than any quarterback in the NFL. Steve, what do you think? Dolphins got a shot here?
I think the Dolphins have a shot to keep it within the spread, but I don't think that I don't think that they're going to win this football game. They're playing at Buffalo. Our boy Hamlin was released from the hospital today. Is he going to make a return to the game in some capacity? If he does, that place is going to go nuts. The motivation of the players is going to go nuts. I think Buffalo has something to prove. I think you hit it, Mike. I think that they have not played up to their standard. They're a little overrated right now. I agree with you. I do not think that right now Josh Allen's playing like a second back.
Well, my issue with him, Steve, is their defense. I don't think their defense is good enough to get this done. I mean, just good enough to beat Miami.
Well, I think
things
they're
change.
going to win the game, whether they cover the 13 points or not. I'll give you two answers. One is if you're just betting irregular playoffs, take the Bills. If you're betting the spread, I'm not sure I'd give up 13 points at this point.
See, I would because of this fact. With Skylar Thompson playing, we just saw him only put up 11 on the Jets or 9 on the Jets. I don't know that the Dolphins can score more than 13 points, which makes a 13-point spread pretty easy to make. Because I really think this game ends up like 42-10 Buffalo.
Okay.
I do. Because I don't think – I think this. Miami has a bunch of guys that are nicked up, right? They're not practicing. This is a playoff game. I think a lot of this has to do with Mike McDaniel being the head coach. I mean, you can't have a 12-year-old and give him the keys to the car. So Mike McDaniel's a major issue here. The offense looked great the first half of the season. He did not add on to that offense. People figured it out. He's RPO 80% of the time like he's coaching college football. It doesn't work. So Steve, does that mean you're going to take Buffalo or take Miami in the points?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, is that a yes?
No, hang on. Now you made me think.
You're not even moving on screen, Dan.
Yeah, I know you're not, Dan. You're frozen.
He's been frozen for like 20 minutes.
Mike, question two is,
hey, real quick, Dan, jump off and jump back on. Go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
Why would the NFL even allow Tagliabue to come back at all this year, period? I mean, three solid hits to his head. Just why would the NFL, if they really want to say they believe in this protocol and they believe in protecting these kids so we don't get, him being a vegetable by the time he's 35, why would the NFL just not say, you're done for the year? You passed protocol 5 times over the summer and you can come back next year, but you officially are out of the NFL for the rest of this season.
I see no video for Dan.
Oh, no.
But all right, so I would say this, Steve. They have a protocol in place. They're following that. The protocol doesn't say you can only have this many concussions in a year. He's had 2, possibly 3. I mean, I don't know. He's a grown man. He can make decisions for himself. And we've already seen with the NFL, Steve, on the Cincinnati Buffalo thing that they really don't care about the safety or the health of the teams. I mean, it came out yesterday that there's no doubt the NFL wanted that game played. I mean, if you saw the story that was put out, there was
an article that some reporter apparently wrote, an ESPN reporter that said that very thing, that privately behind closed doors, the NFL did want the game played.
Yes. And that's why I think that's partially why they punished the Bengals.
And frankly, as a fan, I'm sitting there and I wanted the game played. I mean, my opinion of that at that time was he's in as good a hands as he can be in. He's at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. There's nothing anybody can do. Let's go on and play this game because this controversy is going to stir up if we don't play the game. And it's unfair to the Bengals to not give them a fair shot.
Well, especially now, if the Bengals and Bills both win, all of a sudden the Bengals have to go to Buffalo, which if this game was played, I mean, I'm not going to say it's guaranteed the Bengals were going to beat the Bills that night, but early on, the early returns showed that it might have been.
Definitely. Yeah. As a fan, I was definitely one of the people. I'll admit it. as gory as it is, I'm one of the people who said, hey, he's in an ambulance. He's taken care of. He's got doctors all around him. He's going to a state-of-the-art medical center. There's nothing we can do. I mean, there's nothing more that anybody can do. Let those people do their job, and let's go back and try and play this game.
I honestly think this, Steve. I don't think the game should have been continued that night. I think once he's all right, I mean, they should have just pushed everything back a week. The Bengals and Bills should play this weekend.
Why not just play it the next night?
Because you don't know if he's going to die or not at that point. Yeah. And that does make it hard to play. I mean, I can tell you this. If I'm coaching in a game, and I've been in a situation where players have been paralyzed for a little bit, they get their feeling back right before they get on and everything's fine. If I could tell you this, if I had a player that was put on a stretcher and he couldn't move, I wouldn't be able to coach that game. And I don't think most of the players on my team would be able to play that game. The game could have been played 48 hours later the way the rule states. But let's face it, 9/11, when that happened, they pushed everything back a week. You just took away the extra week for the Super Bowl. Right. That extra week for the Super Bowl is very important to the NFL. They don't give two shits about competitive balance, number one. What they care about is making their money. And the corporations, the big wigs, and all that shit are there for that extra week. And let's face it, when it comes down to it, I know Joe Spillman just said true that, but Joe was at the Super Bowl, I think, last year. And Joe, I mean, I would say probably 60% of the crowd at least are just corporate bigwigs that have no rooting interest in the game. They're just there to be at the Super Bowl. And it's an absolute joke. Nobody cares about the player's safety in the NFL. And the fact Troy Vincent is just a lackey for Roger Goodell. I mean, Troy Vincent will be removed if he doesn't play the game, because this game is same thing. Jerry Jones can do whatever the hell he wants because Jerry Jones brings a lot of money in the NFL. Robert Kraft can go see a prostitute, get a massage the weekend of the Super Bowl, get caught for it. Nobody go say a damn thing. He didn't get suspended like Deshaun Watson did because Robert Kraft got the jack. Literally, he got the jack. All right. So there's different rules for the peons, which would be the players, and the kings, which would be the owners. And Roger Goodell only does what the owners tell him to do, because if Roger Goodell pisses the owners off, he'll be immediately removed. I mean, he's just a puppet for the NFL owners. And he's a really good one because he does exactly what they want. But the fact here that the Bills are going to get to play the Chiefs at a neutral field, number one, they haven't even decided what the neutral field is. And number two, why don't the Bengals get that against the Bills? That game was never played. If the Bengals beat the Bills there, the Bengals would have been the 2 seed. The Bills would have been the 3 seed. Hell, the Bengals would get to play the Dolphins, who are going to resemble an XFL team this weekend, while the Buffalo Bills would have to deal with the Ravens defense. Could change everything completely right there, so the Bengals don't even play the Bills. So I think this is an absolute joke, but it's the NFL. Everything with the NFL seems to always end with us using the words absolute joke, Dan.
Yeah, they totally effed it up. We talked about that on our previous show, Mike, you and I, when it's all first went down a couple of weeks ago or last week, whatever it was. They botched everything. We already had rules in place for something like this.
Yeah.
The fact that they just went off on their own and just came up with this cockamamie bullshit and said, "Oh, this is what we're going to do for the playoffs." It's second rate. It lacks creativity, and it looks like I said then, it looks like they wanted to do something that it makes it look like they tried, like they really tried to come up with a viable solution for all these teams. But then, like halfway through, they were like, "You know what? Screw this. You want to smoke some weed or something?" And
let's
then
just go take care of the golden boy, Patrick Mahomes. Take care of the golden boy, Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. Let's make sure he's got home field advantage, because really, I am a Bengals fan. Everybody knows that. But I think this is bullshit on many counts. Number one, on the Ravens. The Ravens, if the Bengals and Bills play and the Bills beat the Bengals, the Ravens could have won the division the next week and been the 3 seed. With the Bills, if they would have beat the Bengals and then won their last game against the Patriots, they would have been the 1 seed. So in all of this, it seems to me that everybody gets screwed except for the Kansas City Chiefs, which with their fat ass coach and Patrick Mahomes, they're the golden child of the NFL.
Well, it used to be Tom Brady.
And
but
here, Joseph Michael says, no, it did not used to be. It was never Tom Brady. That's absolutely asinine to say. Tom Brady got
a lot of calls.
No, Tom Brady got like what?
I mean, you want to start with the very first one. I mean, the tuck rule.
And the tuck rule, his hand was moving forward. It was the rule. It was a stupid rule. They changed the rule after that, but that was the rule. You can't give me his time where he was given a break. Hell, they accused him of a deflated ball, which was proven by MIT professors to be BS.
Yeah, it
and
was
then
bullshit.
They suspended him for 4 games because he wouldn't let him see his cell phone. Now, who in the hell is going to let the NFL see your cell phone? I guarantee you this. They would never do that. No, he just didn't give it to him, which is why they suspended him. They would have never treated Peyton Manning or Patrick Mahomes that way because they're the golden child. They just are. You know, I don't think Tom Brady's gotten preferential treatment. I mean, hell, the NFL treats all quarterbacks with kid gloves pretty much right now. So I don't think there's any preferential treatment there. But, I mean, this is just a joke. They screwed over the Ravens. They screwed over the Bills. They screwed over the Bengals. What do all 3 of those have in common? They're small markets. Nobody really gives a shit. You can't get good TV ratings with them. But you give me Patrick Mahomes and his beautiful arm, you know, playing San Francisco or Dallas or Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. Oh, yeah, we're all on board for that. So, I mean, and the other thing they did is they made sure that Bengals-Bills game will be played in Buffalo because they want Buffalo to be the team that plays Kansas City. And if you're a Chiefs fan, don't be too excited because this may be the year they decide the red, white, and blue of the Bills would be a great story to win the Super Bowl.
Gross.
And I'm not saying anything's fixed. I'm just saying they manipulate stuff one way or the other. We know it's happened. You saw Super Bowl 40. You saw Ray Lewis win his Super Bowl. We saw Jerome Bettis win his Super Bowl. We saw the Rams win a Super Bowl when they needed it because of their new stadium and the tax levy that was being voted on there. It just seems weird that this stuff happens all the time, but it does.
I think this
is
would
just
be
a coincidence.
I was going to say, I think this would be a really fun conversation for like during the off season. Do this during the off season, have a whole show to talk about.
It'll be a fun one if the Bills win.
These theories and and it'll be after the Super Bowl, so we could have some real special content.
Yeah,
Michael. I think your small market theory is going to get tested here as your quarterback continues to blossom into.
Well, all I know is last year, Steve, there was a pass interference called on Logan Wilson that was absolute bullshit in that game. And you had 2 instances on the Bengals' last drive where the Rams lined up offsides by a yard and nobody called it. So
give Burrow a couple more big wins in a couple more years, and you're going to be going Tom who, and you're going to be saying Joe Burrow is the cat's meow in the NFL.
He might be, but the fact
Cincinnati's going to be playing a lot of primetime football games at that point in time.
Yeah, but not because the NFL wants them to.
Kansas City's as small as market as Cincinnati or Indianapolis. They
got Patrick Mahomes and fat-ass Andy Reid.
Right. That's why they're getting the glory now. And Cincinnati's going to get there real quick.
They won't. They'll never get there because they want somebody else to be. Hey, New England never really got there, Steve. Everybody hated New England.
McVay's going to be open here pretty quickly. I might want to get your hands on McVay.
Why would I want my hands on McVay? I'd rather have Zach Taylor.
Okay.
Really? Ooh,
no doubt. I mean, Sean McVay is not a good.
Hear him?
Hey,
this is Zach the thing. Taylor the shithole of the world.
This is the thing. I have not called him a shithole of the world this year. I said he's not a real good coach yet, but I think he is a guy we see evolve.
I don't remember that word yet.
Yeah. And that's what I said last year at the end of the season. Did I not, Dan? I mean, the thing about him, the difference between him and McVay is I think he gets better every year. McVay doesn't. McVay's just McVay. When he has a lot of talent, he wins the Super Bowl. Yeah, and the thing is this. I mean, McVay, the fact that he's probably going to tap out after this bad season will tell you all you need to know about McVay, because right now he doesn't have a quarterback he can win with, and he can't figure out how to do it without. I'll tell you, if I had anybody with my team, I'm taking Mike Tomlin.
What about Sean Payton?
Sean Payton, I would take in a heartbeat. But right now, why would I want to get rid of Zach Taylor? Because the thing about Zach Taylor, he drives me nuts.
Zach Taylor's probably plateaued with that football team. I don't know that he can make that team any better.
Was Zach Taylor?
Yeah.
But I think you're nuts because Zach Taylor, to
No,
me,
because
other than the
the
stupid
Browns aren't
3rd and
gonna
1
spend-
shuffle passes.
The Browns aren't willing to spend the money needed.
Yeah, they are. That's bullshit. Why would you say that when they went out and bought 3 free agent offensive linemen and the year before bought 4 free agent defensive players to 1? I mean, the fact is this: the Bengals have always spent the money. Just in the past, they would spend it stupidly. Right now, what they did is the offensive line now won't be quite as – it'll still be better than last year, but you lost 2 starters there. But the thing about this, the way they're set up now, it's going to be a question of whether they can pay guys. You know, whether you can pay Jesse Bates, whether you can pay, T. Higgins. And they're set up, do you keep paying Joe Mixon? I mean, the great thing is, at least we're not the freaking bottom feeder Colts. Next up, Steve, the New York Giants at the Minnesota Vikings.
Wait a minute. I haven't made my pick yet, and I got one more comment.
That's right.
You picked the Bills.
No, I
Or you picked the Dolphins, I mean.
He didn't make a pick. He didn't make a pick.
Didn't make a pick. For my purposes, I picked the Bills, and I'll give up the 13 and take the Bills. I agree with you there, Mike. I think the game's going to be a blowout. But the one last comment I'll have is you talk about Roselle being a whipping boy for the owners.
No, Roselle was actually a really good.
Not Roselle, Goodell.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine because in the end, Mike, the owners own the NFL.
No shit, Steve.
It's their league.
Of course it is. It shouldn't.
So
the players should have no say.
If they want to allow Kraft to go get massages or Jerry Jones to run all over everybody, that's their doing. That's their business.
Plungy.
I mean, Irsay has no other source of income except the money generated by the Colts. He doesn't have a business.
Oh my God! What the fuck are the Colts? They're worth $3 billion, and you're acting like Robert Irsay doesn't, or Jim Irsay doesn't have the money to buy players.
No, but what
Jim
I'm saying
Irsay's a fucking moron.
He's not going to bite the hand that feeds him because if he bites the hand that feeds him, he's got no money coming in, and he doesn't live that lifestyle that he lives with his corporate jet.
No, they force him to sell the team for $3.5 billion. He'll be fine, Steve. I don't think it matters.
No, he can get more than that for the team now.
Exactly. So why are you keep saying that they can take it away from him?
I'm just saying the buck stops with the owners because it's their league. If they want to, let people
I would say this. I think the buck stops with the players because you can have all the owners in the world, but if the players don't play, something will get done. The problem is, the last couple player strikes or the last threat of a player strike, the players buckle. And the players that are present never take care of the retired players the way they should. Now, the last couple times they have a little bit.
So much in the NFL now, no player is going to walk away because they want to prove a point. Because
it's not proving a point. It's so you can get paid better. And you can be taken care of. And you're not playing a game on a Thursday night after you played a game on a Sunday afternoon.
I go back and look what would 3/4 of these people be doing if it wasn't for the NFL. None of them would ever make that kind of money doing anything else in the rest of their lives. So shut up, take the money, and go play football.
So you think they're all basically just stupid dumbasses that could never make it on their own?
No, I think that they're very dependent on the NFL to live the lifestyle that they've become accustomed to leading and living, and they're not going to live that lifestyle very long. Their posse's going to dry up. They'll have a house full of family, and they'll be eating ramen noodles every night.
Steve, don't.
They walk away from the money they're getting.
Steve, don't. Are you talking about Tom Brady and his posse?
His posse went to Brazil.
Hey, Steve, don't. Okay.
I think we're making that left at Albuquerque we shouldn't have made.
Yeah. Steve, New York Giants at the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are favored by 2.5 points. They beat the Giants in Minnesota by 3, 3 or 4 weeks ago. What do you think here? Can the Vikings pull the upset?
Vikings pull an upset?
Yeah. Already Giants pull the upset.
Yeah, I was going to say. They're playing in Minnesota, right?
Yes, sir.
No, I'm going to take the Vikings.
Okay.
Although the Vikings are very inconsistent. What's the injury report, Dan? I can pull it up now too.
So injury-wise, I got it right here in front of me. For the Giants, Xavier McKinney was a full participant at Wednesday's practice, which is good news. Other than that, they had a bunch of other key starters: Leonard Williams, Adoree Jackson, guard John Feliciano, all limited but practicing. So Giants-wise, they should be good. As far as the Vikings go, Cam Dantzler didn't practice on Wednesday. He was the only Vikings player to miss the practice. Other than that, everybody else played. So really, I don't think injuries are going to play much of a difference in this game.
Yeah, I 2.5. If it was anything more than 2.5 points, I'd be concerned. But I think of that range, playing in Minnesota, I'll take the Vikings and give up the points here.
All right, before we get Dan's pick on this game, remember, it's not just sports betting. Betting.net compares the best online sources to sit back, relax, and play the top online slot, poker, and table games. What do you think, Dan? Oh, by the way, Joe says ramen noodles are really good. They're really nice.
Oh, yeah. Especially if you prepare them right, yo. Actually, there's a lot of ramen noodle restaurants popping up in New York City. And
in LA, too.
Pretty good, actually.
Yeah, what they two cesspools, a bunch of liberals, dumbasses that don't know that you can eat something better than ramen noodles. Good. That's because all the rent's like $3,000 for a one-bedroom in New York.
You're not wrong. But no, I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings here. And this has been talked about literally nonstop the last few days here in New York. Fans are ready. And honestly, they sound pretty confident. They're going against the Giants are going against a Vikings team that is kind of weird. They're the first team to win 13 games and be
outscored.
12, at least 12 games and have a negative point differential. Now, to that end, I would say maybe that stat is a little skewed because there were a couple of ugly blowouts that contributed to that.
I think those count. Usually 12-4 teams don't take 41-3 ass weapons a couple times.
Yeah, they got their asses handed to them by the Packers and whatnot.
I could see one time, but a couple times, and one of those was by the Packers, who are a very, very average team at best.
Yeah, especially when they played the Packers at that point. But no, so this is a weird situation. The Vikings have the 31st ranked defense. They have the 31st ranked passing defense. If I had any confidence whatsoever in Daniel Jones at the quarterback position and the weapons that they've surrounded him with at this point, I would probably pick the Giants. And Giants fans are really confident. And I think there's a good chance the Giants could win this game. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe I just can't get past the idea that this is the New York Giants that we're talking about. First time in the playoffs since 2016. They've been completely ass for the last 5 years. And all of a sudden they get a new coach, the likely coach of the year, spoiler alert. And suddenly they're in the playoffs in a down year in the NFC where, Mike, you've said it multiple times over the course of the season. The NFC is trash. It is nowhere close to what
I really believe if the Eagles are the best team in the NFC, they would be the 4th seed in the AFC.
Yeah, you've said that before. And you know what? I can't really disagree with you at this point. As good as the stats look for Philadelphia, this has been a down year for the entire NFC to the point where, Mike, you even said it earlier in this show, the Seattle Seahawks are in the playoffs. They don't belong. They don't belong at all.
They probably belong more than the Miami Dolphins, though.
Probably.
Actually,
honestly,
if I'm the Buffalo Bills, I'm really glad the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't slip in.
Yeah, yo, that was actually one of the teams that people were talking about going into the playoffs that nobody wants to play the Steelers because that defense can be scary. Watt is legit. Fitzpatrick is legit, etc. But anyway, they're not in the playoffs. Going back to this, the Giants and the Vikings, I'm not sure what it is, to be honest, but I'm going to take the Vikings and hope that their 31st ranked pass defense doesn't shit the bed completely.
All right, I'm going to take the New York Giants. They're 5-1 when Barkley gets 20 carries or more. Barkley ran for 133 yards and a touchdown a few weeks ago. Kirk Cousins 1-3 in the playoffs. This is his first home playoff start for the Vikings. I think the difference in this matchup is this. That first game, Minnesota won by 3 points. Minnesota did not turn the ball over at all. That's not really the way Minnesota normally plays. I think if the Giants can force one or two miscues, they take care of the ball. And Daniel Jones, I don't think is a Pro Bowl quarterback, but I think that he's shown this year with the 15 touchdowns, 5 picks. I don't think he's had too many fumbles, that he has learned how to take care of the ball. I think O'Connell and DeBall are two of the guys that would be in my top 5 for Coach of the Year. I just think DeBall is a slightly better coach, or Dayball, however the hell you say his name. But I'm going to go with the New York Giants in the upset. I like the Giants in here, and I think the Giants are dangerous from here on out. I mean, I think the Giants go play the Eagles. They could beat the Eagles.
Yo, the Giants.
Hell, their JV team almost beat the Eagles last week.
You're not wrong. Yeah, that's the thing. But no, the Giants. I was talking about this with my buddy Bobby because he's a huge Giants fan. And he's of the idea that the Giants should bring back Barkley and Jones, just re-sign Barkley or re-sign Jones, give him a 2 or 3 year deal, run it back. And
what are you going to get better than Jones?
That's what he said. He said, yo, there's really nothing available out there. What are you going to trade for Carr? Carr might be, if Carr's a better quarterback than Jones, I don't think anyone will debate that.
He's been around for 10 years too. There's tread on them tires. Ain't what they used to be.
Is he really that guy to lead you to a Super Bowl? You know what I'm saying? Is he that guy for New York? Vegas is
Brock Purdy. You
think
the 49ers could go to the Super Bowl, and they're being led by Brock Purdy. Geno Smith has got the Seahawks in the playoffs. Let's face it, right now, there's 3 teams in Buffalo, Cincinnati, Kansas City that have elite quarterbacks. Nobody else has what those 3 teams have. I'm sorry, Jalen Hurts ain't there. Dak Prescott ain't there. Herbert ain't there. None of those guys are there yet. Daniel Jones is a guy who has showed he's getting better. You don't have to give him a max contract. You can give him a 1-year bridge deal. And hey, if you have a great season, then we can talk about, blowing it up. I'd give him another year. There's nobody in the draft that I know that's going to come in and all of a sudden do a better job than Daniel Jones. So, I mean, I would roll with Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones is going to win this game. And if he does, as the 6th seed, that takes him to Philadelphia. They could beat Philadelphia.
The good thing for the Giants, even if they re-sign Barkley and Jones, even if Jones costs them $30 million this upcoming season, which is certainly possible with the rate quarterbacks are going.
It's probably going to be 25 to 30. Yeah.
So let's just say, just for example, Chris, let's say he's getting $30 million a year. Let's say Barkley's getting 12 to 15 a year. They come into the offseason with just about $60 million in cap space, which would be good for 3rd in the NFL. Even with $45 million off the books, they'll still be able to restructure contracts and have at least 15 to 20 mil to sign guys in the offseason. And yeah, there's not a lot of like upper echelon wide receivers, but if there's one thing that we've seen this year is that as long as you give your quarterback some weapons, and it's not the Giants, I'm about like around the NFL, you don't necessarily need that top 5 guy to get production out of your passing game. So,
and a lot of this have to do with your scouting department, because we see teams like Kansas City and Cincinnati and Buffalo who somehow end up with a 4th or 5th receiver that makes a play almost every game that you didn't even expect to see.
That's definitely a thing. But yeah, the Giants will be a very interesting team to talk about moving forward in the offseason. We'll touch more on that, I'm sure, as we go forward.
All right, next up, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Dallas Cowboys, Dan. The Cowboys are favored by 3. This is a tough one to pick after what we just saw, by the way.
Damn.
Is Vita Vea playing?
All right, so looking at the injury report for this game. Sorry, my computer's slow again. Okay, here we go. Just kidding. Okay, no, we're good. No, we're kidding. You know what? Forget it. My computer sucks. Who cares about the injuries? I don't care. I'm going to take Dallas. And it feels dirty to pick against Tom Brady, considering all he's done in the postseason and the greatness that he's displayed. And they got weapons. Tampa Bay's got weapons. It's not like they don't. But they're just too hit and miss. And as great as the Cowboys are very much hit or miss too, but I'm gonna give it to Dallas. The home field advantage. The fact that Tampa Bay, they squeaked into the playoffs. If we're not talking about a team that squeaked in, you were talking about the Seahawks, the Tampa Bay Bucks, or the Jaguars even. The Bucks squeaked into the playoffs by the skin of their teeth. They acted like they didn't want this.
Hey, I'll give you this, though. The Bucks won a tougher division than the Jaguars won.
Yeah, but it's not saying much when your division is the equivalent to a high school pop.
I did not say I was saying much. All right, so Dan has got the Cowboys. Steve, what do you think? We need to get Steve's face working on here because I keep forgetting about him. Go ahead, Steve. Tampa Bay or Dallas?
I can put my face on, but just remember, guys, I've been in the hospital.
Don't worry about it then. Dallas at Tampa Bay. That's backwards on there. I shouldn't have copied and pasted. But Tampa Bay against Dallas. The Cowboys are favored by 3 in Tampa, Steve.
Well, since you're cutting me off on everything I say.
I didn't cut you off.
I'll just take Dallas and give up the 3 points. Move on.
When did I cut Dan, or when did I cut you off?
Just go. Move on. I take Dallas.
Why?
I have no further comment.
Why not? I mean, so hell,
Let's go, Steve.
I guess I'll go with Dallas. But Dak Prescott could shoot. Hell, I'm going with Tampa Bay and Tom Brady. I'm a man.
Tom Legend.
Because they're both terrible. All right.
Final answer?
Yep.
Final answer.
Tampa Bay in the upset. I have no faith in the Dallas Cowboys. Plus, maybe they can go out and get Sean Payton. All right, we've got the final game. We got the Bengals and the Ravens. Right now, the Bengals are favored by 6.5, Steve.
It's the no-brainer of the wild card weekend. It's the lock pick. Take the Bengals, give up the 6.5.
Really, I think out of all 6 of these games, this is probably the second most likely to be an upset.
What?
Yeah. Right now you've got T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd are questionable.
You know what? You're a Homer fan, so you're nervous. I understand that.
No, I'm just telling you that from what I see.
Who doesn't give a shit about the games. I think that the Bengals are a better football team.
Well, nobody said they weren't. But this is the thing. It's not always about who's better. It's just like I saw Joe Spillman, our buddy, make a comment today because somebody posted on a message board that TCU would have beat Ohio State. He called them stupid since TCU lost 65-7 to Georgia. The problem is this. You ever hear when a boxing match styles make fights? All right. TCU don't match up with Georgia. TCU's passing game would have matched up with Ohio State. Ohio State's not going to get after quarterback like Georgia does. They'd have had a better chance. Doesn't mean they would have beat Ohio State, but they'd have had a chance. I'm sure Joe's on here now.
Of course he is.
Dirty Mike and the boys.
Dirty Mike and the boys. Thanks for the F-Shack.
All right. So this is what I think. You got Higgins and Boyd, both questionable. You've got Alex Kappa is out. You've already lost La'el Collins. I mean, it's not like this team is incredibly healthy right now. And I think this Baltimore Ravens defense was drafted and their free agent sightings were to stop this offense. And they have done that the first 2 games they've played this year. They've held Joe Burrow to an average of 220 yards passing.
Burrow's going to pick them apart.
Okay. He didn't pick them apart last week or the first time they played. I'm telling you this. There's going to be no Lamar Jackson because Lamar Jackson doesn't want to be a Raven anymore. You're going to get Tyler Huntley or you're going to get Anthony Brown. Lamar Jackson, probably the final straw for Lamar was Roquan Smith getting 5 years, $100 million the first day he could when they re-signed guys. So I think there's issues there. I'm going to take the Bengals. I think the Bengals will win the game, but I don't think it'll be a blowout, Dan.
Nah, I'm with Steve on this one. I don't care who's not playing. I don't care at all. All that matters is Joe play. I would say all that matters is Joe Burrow's playing.
Right.
Then you care who's playing.
That's all that matters. You could have said, "Oh, Jamar Chase is out. Oh, Taj Boyd is out. Joe Mixon." Who cares? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Hey, remember that beard's going away.
Yo, we'll see, man. We'll see. But nah, I mean,
But I
I'm
really think this, Dan and Steve. I think that the Bengals toughen. I worry more about the Ravens than I would playing the Bills in Buffalo. That's simple because the Bills don't have the defense to slow the Bengals down. The Ravens do. The Kansas City doesn't have the defense to slow the Bengals down. The Ravens do. The only advantage here is the Ravens don't have the offense.
Any other quarterback, and I buy your argument, but not with Burrow. Burrow's emerging into the premier franchise quarterback in the NFL.
Go ahead. Shake your head yes, Dan.
not going to do it.
Mahomes is always going to be the darling of the NFL because of his razzle dazzle.
But Burrow's better.
The franchise is going to be Burrow.
Yeah. I don't think there's any doubt Burrow's the best quarterback. But I will also tell you this. I don't think there's any doubt that right now there's not a top 3 quarterbacks. I don't think Josh Allen belongs in the same breath as Mahomes and Joe Burrow. I really don't. I think Mahomes has separated himself from Allen this year just by the fact that he's completed touchdown passes to something crazy, like 12 or 13 different receivers. He's not forcing the ball now. I think it's actually made him a better quarterback not having Tyreek Hill. Because you got Tyreek Hill, you'll take a shot you may not take to Joe Schmo.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that. I'll touch on that for a hot second before going back to the Bengals-Ravens. But with Mahomes losing Tyreek Hill, everybody was talking about that coming into this season. What's he going to do? Who's going to get the ball besides Kelsey? How is that going to limit him in the passing game? And that's the difference between like a top 3 true franchise guy and like a good quarterback. Because when
those quarterbacks, Dan, if their number 1 guy is Jamar Chase and he misses 3 or 4 games, they don't throw for over 300 yards in every game he's not there.
I mean, when Calvin Johnson left the Lions and Stafford lost his top guy, Stafford was one of those. Stafford would just, someone's coming on pressure. Let me just where's Calvin? Oh, there he is. Let me just throw it up. I don't care if he's getting triple covered.
Yeah. And that's how Mahomes was with Kelsey and Hill. Yeah. And now you don't see that. He's calmer in the pocket. He's become a much better quarterback.
And the difference between a Stafford and a Mahomes, even back then, as much as I loved Stafford and I had to defend him as one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league at that time, he was never at that level. He wasn't even close to that point. And when Calvin left, you saw a difference. I noticed a difference every single week. And on one hand, it was nice that he wasn't throwing it up in triple coverage just because he could, because he had a guy down there that he trusted. It was nice that he dumped it off or gave it someone else. It was nice to see, but he wasn't doing it like this, like what Mahomes did this year. And then flipping it back to the Bengals-Ravens game, I mean, Mike, I'm glad you're giving the Ravens defense some credit, but
because they are really damn good.
They are.
They've got Roquan Smith. I mean, because this is a team that made the playoffs and won 11 games, 10 games, and I think over the last 6 games they didn't break 20 points.
Well, I was going to say I'm glad you're giving them credit because they do have a top 10 defense, but their pass defense sits at 26 in the NFL right now. And I think going against a team like the Bengals, even without T. Higgins, that you open it up for a legend.
My worry is that it ends up being without T. Higgins or Tyler Boyd. Then it does become an issue.
Nope, I don't care at all. And
you only got 2 good receivers.
And then on the flip side,
on the other side, I think Steve's trying to talk, but we can't see him, so we don't know. Go ahead, Steve.
The Bengals are riding an 8-game winning streak. I believe they've won all 8 of those games, and there's no backing into any one of those 8 wins. I just think they're not on cruise control. I think they're playing Super Bowl caliber football.
I don't. I've watched those games, and I do not think that they have played 4 quarters in any game they've played in the last 5
they haven't
or 6
needed
weeks.
to.
Actually, they did because they almost lost 2 of them because they didn't.
Well, almost only counts in horseshoes.
Joseph asked if T. Higgins is not playing. T. Higgins did not practice today. I know from what I was told on Monday, they were treating him for a hip pointer on the inside towards his groin, which is very painful. I don't know if he's going to play or not, but he didn't practice today. Today, they said it was because he was sick. So,
and also,
we all made our picks. We all took the Bengals.
Yeah. Well, also to just wrap it up, I guess, for this game, the other thing of note is that Lamar Jackson is not playing. And this Ravens offense, he is not playing. And this Ravens offense has shown, they've proven that, sure, Huntley might be a good backup quarterback, but they don't have the weapons to make up for Huntley's limitations in the passing game.
Dude, they don't have the weapons to make up for it with Lamar Jackson.
That's what I was saying. Lamar Jackson,
not like they were scoring a bunch of points before.
Yeah, and Lamar has his own limitations in the passing game, and he looked like Superman the first month and a half of the season, but come like middle of October, he fell off. And I don't think that's by coincidence either. It wasn't an injury thing. They just don't have any weapons.
Yeah, that's the point I was going to make. If Lamar was going to come back and I was the Bengals, I'd be fearing his running game more than I would his passing game right now.
Yep. And
tell you the truth, I wouldn't fear him just because he hasn't played in 6
No, I
weeks.
agree, but I would fear his running game more than his passing game.
Well, I mean, you got to, because he's got no wide receivers. Tyler Huntley doesn't. I mean, I know
run the football. Let's face it, he's in the midpoint of running backs in the NFL.
Well, to tell you the truth, I worry more about J.K. Dobbins in this game than anything, even if Lamar Jackson was playing, because J.K. Dobbins can control the game.
We all took the Bengals.
Yep.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up then. Do you have any final words, Dan?
Nah, just everybody enjoy the games and follow the Grueling Truth on Twitter and on Instagram and on Facebook and all that good stuff. You can catch me. I'm at DB Talking Sports, D as in Dan, B as in Bob on Twitter and Instagram.
Talking Sports. When is your first mock draft coming out?
I've been working on it. Very extensively. I've got, I think, over 200 revisions at this point. But I'm hoping to put it out tonight or tomorrow.
You know, I can see how many revisions that you have. So we could go pull it up right now and show everybody to see.
I'm pretty sure it's at 200 at this point.
I'm just kidding. Do you and Sam do that together, is what Steve asked, or is it just you?
No, it's just me having my own fun with myself.
All right, good. If you brought Sam into it, I'm thinking I'll need a nap about that time anyway.
Well, no, it's an article. It's not a show, Steve, so it'll be all right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right, Steve, any final words? We got to go watch IU play Penn State.
Yeah, they're down. They're down 11 at halftime to Penn State at Penn State.
12, 37-25.
They got to get a coaching change.
Dude, don't say that on any of those IU sites or it'll ban you.
Oh, I'm not. Don't worry about it.
You ought to, because I'm going to start.
Staying off the IU site. One of these days we'll do a show.
I'll do it tomorrow if you want.
Let me check my schedule.
Because you don't answer the phone when I call you. So
You haven't called me.
I have called you, because I called you the same night that you made that smart-ass comment that I never call you. And then I called you the next morning, too. So then I figured, screw it, I won't call him anymore unless he tells me. And then I tried to call you, and you told me you didn't want to talk. So
in all honesty, Mike, I've been in serious mourning, and when I talk to you,
I know.
I'll tell you why.
I know. That's why I've left you alone. But
it's been a very tough holiday season.
Love you, Steve. Hope you feel better, bud.
Yeah, it's not me that's hurting. It's my heart.
But, all right.
What about you, Mike?
You just made it harder to end the show, Steve. What, Dan?
What about you? Do you have any final thoughts, questions, concerns?
I'm wondering why you never show me a heart sign and tell me you love me.
You know what? I got one for you too, Mike.
Oh, get the hell out of here. You love Steve more than me.
For you,
Are we going to save MVP picks, coach of the year, all that crap for next week?
Yeah, let's just do a separate show with that.
Okay.
I like that.
I mean, because we're really close to actually, if we get off here in the next 50 seconds, have our first show in under an hour all year.
Let's do it.
That's because there was only like 6 games. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Make sure you check out the Grueling Truth at Grueling Truth on Twitter. Also, go like, subscribe, hit on the little notification button on YouTube. Tell all your friends, all your neighbors. But for now, for Dan Kornhauser, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpass. You've been watching and listening to the Grueling Truth